How did you first get to know Andre, or how did he first get in touch with you?
I studied here in Maastricht High School for music first, before I did violin making. And actually I studied together with Andre. We were together in the orchestra. I was the concertmaster and Andre was next to me. So I know him already for 35 years.
So do you actually make violins for him, or do you repair them, or what do you do?
He makes now already 2 violins of him are in the orchestra with Andre, but we do the repair for him, for the orchestra, because he travels a lot with the instrument, so every tour there's always some damage on the violins or cello or double basses.
He has bought my first violin I ever made. A friend of mine, he plays in the orchestra of Rieu. Last week, because he bought my new built violin, he had a little interview with us for the national TV, not for only Limburg, but the whole country. So yeah, it was very nice. It was very lovely to stand on the podium and see how many people are actually sitting there and how big the whole production is. It's really amazing. Yeah.
You see many of Andre's videos when he goes to Mexico and Brazil, and throughout the world he's just loved universally.
Yeah. It's not for nothing that he's the best selling artist in the world. He's I think he even sells more than, for example, the U2 and all these big kind of names. So yeah, we have a celebrity in our midst here in Maastricht.
One of the things that I've seen on one of Andre's videos is that his violin playing has encouraged lots of children to take up the violin.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah. When he started, because I also rent violins. And then once he gave a concert with all young children here on the Vrijdag, and after this recording, we bought 18 this size violins. We have to buy because we have to rent them. And all these little children, a lot of children start to play the violin through him.
That's excellent news. To introduce children to music at an early age,
and it impresses children a lot when they see the whole show with the fireworks and all the nice dresses, and a lot of young children then want to play violin also. It's good for our business that he has this concert here in Maastricht.
And you're kept busy all the time. I can see that from the number of violins and the bows in the workshop.
You'll never have an ending on our work.
This
always going.
This is not a shop here, right? The shop is upstairs.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This is only
Repair.
the place to work.
Yeah, and repairs. Everything you see here has to be repaired. Only the violins on the plank there, the white one.
So these are all for repair.
Yeah. The white one I just finished yesterday. Yeah, at these times I'm glad that I chose this occupation, because if I see how many people are unemployed nowadays, I'm lucky to have some work.
And an occupation that stays with you for the rest of your life.
I think I will never stop with it, or I have to fall down on the street and someone have to run over my hands with his car, then I have to think about something else. But still, I think then I would do the how you say, not to repairing, but business in selling or buying instruments.
Mm.
Well, I don't think will ever get off this cold turkey.
No. Has anybody actually determined what it is about a Stradivarius that gives it the richness of sound and the quality of sound that makes it so valuable?
The value of the Stradivari has nothing to do with the sound. This has to do with the antique value of the instrument. And you just must imagine that at the time that Stradivari made his violins, a violin of him cost just as much as a house at that time. So this would be that I could ask for my violins around 400,000 euros. And my violins only bring 14,000 euros. So at that time, the people who could buy a violin of him were the kings and the church and very rich people. So who played on this violin were the best violin players, who did the repairs on the violin were the best violin makers, and this for 300 years. So therefore the violins stay in a very good condition. And the value of the violin is made by, when you have, for instance, two people in Japan and they want the same violin, then the price goes up and up and up. Because what makes a violin worse? The last one, the most expensive one, was sold to Japanese for
12.8 million pounds.
It was sold from England to Japan. This was the Lady Blunt.
The best preserved Stradivari violin in the world. He still has 89% of his original Varnish.
Gosh. So a violin that you might make, would a violin player expect to get the same kind of sound that he might from, for example, Stradivarius?
This is not what I'm working to the sound of the Strat, because you cannot do this because the Strat was already played for 300 years. And when, for instance, like the violin of Niels was born yesterday, and first it has to be played for at least half a year before you know what actually the sound will be. This you cannot tell just from the beginning.
What is it that determines the sound then?
Because the wood has to settle when you play on it, and you have to play in all the registers of the whole instrument to let the violin sound well after half a year. The violins from us, they are also played without varnish the first 3-4 months by somebody who played the violin in all the registers for about 5-6 hours a day, so it must be a professional. Mostly the violins from Niels are played by a friend of him, and he's the concert master here from the Amazon.
And are you going to the concert in the next 2 or 3 nights?
We were at the concert the second week, but tonight I'm going to the concert with my wife and some friends of us. Because tonight is completely different from the other nights, because now Jeremy Jackson is coming. One of the Jackson 5.
People should know that.
I won't tell anybody.
What did you just say?
No, it was on the Dutch television yesterday.
Yeah, okay, then it's not our blame.
This is the surprising thing about Andre, is that yes, he's a classical musician, but wherever he goes, he always introduces new artists, different people you would never expect to come to
You saw the one with how's the guy called? He does the Hannibal Lecter.
Oh yes, Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
He made a music piece, and Andre how you say, played it with his orchestra he made it into a real music piece.
Because he'd written a waltz and he
Yeah.
wanted Andre to play the waltz. It was the
Yeah.
first time that it had ever been played.
Yeah.
And it was good. It was
Yeah.
a good piece of music.
It was good.
Yeah.
3 days ago he did one concert with the Yosti band.
Which band?
Yosti band,
It's an orchestra from only people who are handicapped.
yeah, mentally disabled.
Super.
Yeah.
I also love the. He has a trio from. Is it from Leningrad or a Russian trio? And one plays. It's like a bouzouki. It looks like a bouzouki.
We picked them up here from the street because they were from Russia and they played here like a street orchestra. And they were so incredible good. So he took them off the street and he put them on stage. For
Good.
already 5-6 years back. Yeah. He only picks out very, very good musicians. The same as the last weekend there was the Pandrion player from Brazil. This man with this small accordion. This man was so incredible good.
He also encourages young talent, doesn't he? Because there's a young Turkish boy who's 4 years old. And okay, he's got a long way to go, but at least he's encouraging the talent, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he also takes in a lot of students, students from the conservatory here. So singers or other instrument players, when they are good, they can get for school they can learn at his productions, and then maybe if they really do their best, afterwards they can get a job.
There was a young girl a few weeks ago who I saw, I think she's about 13 years old, and she plays the trumpet. And she was amazing. And it is her ambition one day to join the orchestra.
Yeah. It's one of the main reasons why, I say it's one of the most known orchestras. So for every violin player or instrument player or singer, it's an honor to work for him or just to be a part of it. And what the nice thing about this is that and that's why I have a lot of respect for him. He always knew that he was going to be famous. And a lot of people would say it's cocky to say, but he set a goal, and he wanted to be world famous. He said already for years back. He said, "I'm going to be world famous. Everybody in the world will know me." And a lot of people, I think, thought like, walk on, huh? Yeah, you will. I don't believe it. First I have to see it, and now he's one of the most known artists in the world. So.
But the thing about Andre is that he's so down to earth, or appears to be so down to earth.
Went to the supermarket here and do his own grocery. He just walks with his dog and sits on the terrace here in Maastricht.
That's a marvellous characteristic to have.
It's nice that he still sees himself as a Maastricht guy. He's from Maastricht. He knows where his roots are, and
Really, he's really put Maastricht on the map.
Yeah.
Previously, people knew of Maastricht, and particularly with its EU connections. But in terms of making it a place to come to and to enjoy, he's really put it on the map.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who know Maastricht and they don't know where Holland lives. But Maastricht, the name they know. And not because of the euro, because the euro was also born here in Maastricht. But Andre Rieu, everybody knows. Last year we were at his studio to look some instruments for the insurance, And there he has one room, there he has all his golden and this CDs, platinum CDs. And there are the CDs on the wall from Australia. When you see how many CDs he sold in Australia, and you count this together, then everybody in Australia, from child till grown up, everybody must at least have 2 CDs of him. Everybody in Australia, it's amazing.
Yeah, he's very, very popular there, isn't he?
Yeah.
But then even in places like Japan and...
This I don't understand. The first time he went to Japan, I thought, okay, now it's done. The Japanese, he will not get on the chairs. And the first concert was such a big success there in Japan. It was amazing. Yeah.
I think if we're to get maximum enjoyment from his concerts, really we need to learn Dutch.
Yeah.
No, he also does it in English, in French, in German, in every language you can think of, he will make it. That's what they do with the how you say, generaalrepetitie? Dat is generaalrepetitie op zijn Engels. The one...
the rehearsal before the concert.
The big rehearsal. He does all the texts and then this day in French, and then tomorrow in Dutch,
English,
and then the day after in English.
So they can broadcast it over the whole world.
Because he's going into cinemas this, I think still this year, end of this year.
How do you mean?
He goes to cinemas all over the world. So he has a...
Now we will have a movie running in the cinema in the United States. And I think this is because of this Jeremy Jackson.
Well, it's been lovely meeting you. And I don't want to take up any of your time because I can see you.
Yeah, if you want, you can also...
You stay the whole day when we only can work. No problem.
Ah.
Oh, but you can also look upstairs. And
Oh, I'd love to do that.
Show you upstairs.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. Thank you.
And last year we had people from Creta. And from Cyprus.
And from Bilbao.
Yeah, Bilbao we had people. Japan.
You had people from Cyprus?
No, Creta. Last year.
Ah.
Also people who retired.
Crete. Yeah, Crete. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Oh.
And they also came from England, but from the south, from Hastings.
Hey.
What is? What, gold? What's coming out? Piece of paper.
The freaking etiquette that I needed. I didn't know it was in there. Because the instrument is already quite old. But I never saw the pieces of...
Fischetti, so it's Italian.
Italian, 1850?
Yeah. The guitar came from Catania, I think. It's on... There's more etiquette inside.
Yeah, but stuck into the back because they glued it with the white wood glue, and now then half of the etiquette is stuck down here. So if you give me the light, maybe you can see what is in my mirror. I had a little mirror.
Huh?
This little piece is from the back. They didn't glue it on the back, but down there. That's the problem now. Is I cannot read it because it's in
It's the other way around.
It's here, right? So I have to. I cannot look around this. So yeah, problem. I have to read it backwards then.
At least you must can see the year where it's made in.
Just out of interest, Marley, what wood is that you're...
Spruce.
Spruce?
The top is spruce, and all the other wood, the back, sides, the head and the neck, is maple.
Ah.
That's hardwood, and spruce is very soft. And this we use already for 300 years, the same combination. And the wood we work with is at least 40 years old. So before we work at it, it was dried for 40 years.
But where do you source wood that's 40 years old, or is...
You cannot buy wood at this moment anymore what is older as 5-6 years. So all the young violin makers, they have to wait at least 10 years because the wood must be at least 15, 16 years old before you can make a violin out of it. So he's very lucky because I started to collect wood when I was 16. Every time I went with my wife to Italy for a holiday for 2 weeks, and after 4 days we had to go home because all the money was gone on wood. And we just go back to Holland. So I think at the moment I still have about 400 sets of wood, and I only make one violin a year, so I never use it, so he's very lucky.
What a wise investment.
Yeah.
So at the time your wife probably didn't appreciate it.
No.
Schrijf eens op.
Ja.
A-S-T-G-I-A-N-O.
A. Ja.
A-S-T-G-I-A-N-O.
Ja.
S-A-L-V-A-T-O-R.
S-A.
L-V-A-T-O. Je hebt volgens mij een E. A-N-G. E-L-O. En teken.
Ja.
Dan F. L-G-L-I. Of het is F-I-G-L-I. Ja, F-I.
Figli.
Kassa. M-R.
Kassa.
Ja. S-A-E. Of S-C-A-S-A.
Casa.
Ja. Dan komt het gat. En dan wordt het zo rondom.
And now his last name will be Salvatore. But this is not Italian, this is Spanish. And casa is also Spanish. It's not Italian.
Musicali.
That's Italian. Musicali.
What is strange is that the
No date.
the date is not there. Well, maybe we can find the date with the hand. Give me this one. Let's clean it a little bit. Maybe we see more there.
What kind of wishes you have?
Completely different to this. We make swimming pools safe. So in other words, we install safety covers, safety fences around swimming pools. A lot of swimming pools in Cyprus.
Okay. That's good business in Cyprus.
It's keeping us busy. It keeps us busy. But I must say, when you see a craftsman business like this, it's just wonderful to see it.
Yeah, it's something completely different. And actually you don't see it so much, because normally the violin makers, they don't like that people come into the atelier. I think we are the only one here in Holland who sit for the window.
It's marvellous that.
So that people can look.
Because you are doing in a sense what Andre does, which is to bring yourself before people and to encourage them and create interest.
En die is even bovenop.
Ja, ik zie het toch niet wat erin staat. Het kan niet wel geen dingen in.
Geen jaartal.
Geen jaartal.
Oké. Ja.
Ik heb misschien hier hoor. Moeten ze wel heel raar zijn met plakken.
Ja, kom. Dit is niet zo interessant.
Do you come across interesting things like this when you work on an instrument? Do you find things?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes really interesting things. Yeah, how it's repaired. For example, at the top you don't see it that it has been repaired, but that when you look on the inside you see that it's had like 10 cracks on the top and it's all very nice repaired. Well, I like it very much when an instrument is very much repaired and very good repaired.
You can't see it from the outside superficially.
No. It's the same with instruments like this one. Really has a lot of cracks and pieces being torn off in the 300 years that it lived, and when you repair it very nice, it doesn't do anything to the sound of the instrument, but it gets for me it gets a story behind it, because the instrument had a life, and I like that a lot when an instrument has a.
Okay, let's see.
Oh yeah, this is the same.
Okay, here he is busy with repair, and this violin was under the wheel of a car.
Yeah.
Goodness me.
And this top was in at least 45 pieces.
Yeah, it was really.
And he already worked now on it for about 1.5 years, and he put everything together again.
Right.
It was his.
Now
This was for his education.
Yeah. That's
yours, an apprentice piece.
It is just for learning, because I never would have repaired this violin, because it's too much work, too much hours, so it would be much too expensive. But because he was learning, he asked me, "Dad, can I repair this violin?" I said, "Do your job."
What for me was very important is that the instrument doesn't have a very big name, so the value isn't like the value of a Stradivari, but it comes from 1628, so it's a very, very old instrument.
So which country does that come from?
South of France.
Yeah.
And actually the back was in a very good condition still. It was only here it was a little bit broken, but this is still in one piece, but the top was
bad.
Very, very bad.
I'm amazing surprise going underneath the car.
Yeah, I did it for the same with the cello here in the corner. Someone had to play, and she wanted to backstage. She wanted to walk to the stage, and she had to go down a few stairs. She had the instrument in front of her, and she fell on her instrument and then rode down the stairs on the top of the cello. It was also 6 pieces loose from each other, the top. But this one has a problem, it also cracked the back. This is the back from it. Also cracked the back open at 2 places.
So what are these pieces here, these square?
Here the crack is running under the reinforcements And this is the same as here the round pieces of wood that are put in, because at that place the sound post stands on the instrument. So here is one paw of the bridge. The bass bar is holding one paw up, and at the other side it's the sound post that holds it up. But when it cracks, at that point, of course, when it gets pressure, the crack will begin at the sound post, because it's one very small point when it stands on. It happens with this one, because she fell on it. The whole sound post cracked to the top and to the back.
Well, it's just great that there are people like you around who can put it right.
Yeah.
Luckily, yeah, because this one is also from...
That's making our living from.
1897.
Because from making new instruments you cannot make a living out. It takes about 400 hours to make one violin. The material what goes in is about 2,500–3,000 euro. And when you count 400 hours, then we work for around 14–15 euros an hour. And my plumber is more expensive. So we have to live from repair and restoration, and not from making new violins.
So your a violin that you made from new would be unaffordable to so many people. You could not charge the price that you need to charge.
Yeah, that's to make a name more. Because the other violin maker will see my violin and know that I'm a professional. It's just to make a name. Or when your instrument is on the market and someone else hears it and is really flabbergasted from the sound, it doesn't matter if they won't live in Tokyo or if when you want an instrument for the rest of your life, you can travel a little bit for the perfect instrument for you, because it still is a question of what do you like, because it's taste, I think. So you will never hear me say that I make the best violins in the world. For me, I make the best violins in the world because my taste is this kind of sound and this kind of looks. And for another violin maker, it's completely different. Or for other artists.
Well, it's nice being able to do both, and the repairs.
This is just free time. Actually, the new build for me is I do this in my free spare time. If I don't have anything to do, I start building new instruments.
Yeah, show upstairs.
Yeah, be good.
Yes or no, because these books are one-on-one made, so it's the perfect. You can measure the book and measure the actual instrument, and you know if it's correct, yes or no, and it has all the measurements and
So this is when you're buying in instruments, and for insurance purposes.
Yeah, and just when you have an instrument, you don't know exactly who the builder is immediately. You can see from your documentation and your books, you can relate back from what time it came, from which kind of point in the world it had to be made, or you can see the grains of the wood, so you can take a little bit of where the wood came from, if it's European wood or Brazil or So documentation is very important for us to determine. The ingredients of the varnish, for example, the pigments or what the tree gives off.
Resin,
and all the different kinds of things they use in the varnish. So you can use minerals or harder or
smooth.
Or you can take oil varnish or alcohol-based varnish, or so all different ingredients, and it's some kind of a signature for the maker, because a violin maker will never give off his
secret.
A secret of how much of which pigment and what you use in your varnish. So another violin maker could not make the same varnish. It can look the same, but when you break it down and look at the things that are used,
it's a trade secret.
Yeah. It's a child violin from 1600, and yeah, it's very unusual that a violin maker made this small violin. Because it takes a lot of time to make with hand, and children, yeah, they are not so careful with it. So a lot of times when you have a violin like this from 1600, the instrument is broken or completely gone, and this one is still very nice, still works. And the other one is also handmade. It's made by a famous violin maker in Italy, and yeah, it's just some showpiece because the inlay is real, so it really has been laid in. There's a sound post in it. The everything works, even the bow, and it has a very nice varnish put on. It's yeah. When I saw it, it was really mesmerizing that someone would spend this amount of time for something like this. And yeah, when you see the work, he really had to have a very, very small knife.
Otherwise it would be like a bathroom here, huh? And it would sound too much. Therefore we have the carpet, we have the curtains.
Yeah, the whole house, so the central column of the house where the stairs are, it's been done with not a normal kind of paint or anything. It's yeah, here in Holland they call it leem. It's sand. This sort of sand that's on the wall, and when the humidity goes up in house, then the walls take out the humidity from the house, and when it's too dry, they gave off the humidity. So the humidity in this house is always at the same level, because otherwise all the instruments will crack open because they are glued with hot glue, and when hot glue has changes when you have humidity going up and down, up and down.
It's not good.
The first day I came into Maastricht, I thought, okay, here I want to live. I never go anywhere else anymore.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's very nice. Because I also lived in Amsterdam for 1.5 years. I wouldn't change it for Maastricht. Also a nice town, Amsterdam, but Maastricht is more relaxed.
Yes.
It is, and it's quite rural. You know, you have so many parks and
Yeah.
Oh, it is
Nice
lovely.
food, nice people,
Nice
Yes.
nature.
nice squares where you can sit and
amazing cafe culture.
yeah.
Yeah.
We have more, when you want to visit every day another cafe in Maastricht, you have to spend more as 1 year. So we have more as 380 cafes in Maastricht.